I was in my bunk. And I think before we get to the reading, I just want to make a video. I'm going to turn the light out though, because I don't want you to be bedazzled by my visage. Let's plug the charger in. Where's the charger? There it is. Let me just insert that into the... There we go. Beep beep. 78%. What's going on? There wasn't even any light then to cause that. Oh well. So, I'm assuming you can hear my voice. Now, what I'm going to do over the next either big video or more likely series of small videos, or even average size videos that shall be parts 1, 2, 3, whatever, however many videos it takes to read the first chapter of the literature that I am working on. I'm going to reveal, for those with eyes to see and ears to hear, some actual occult knowledge, an actual occult secret, which I'm sure some of you, if you have any experience, will have to admit that you hadn't quite thought of things in that particular way. What I'm going to give out is not necessarily something original in terms of practice, but an original way to look upon the practice of the first 3 meditations in Franz Bardon's initiation into Hermetics. Now, there's no point in me banging on about what they are here, because it will all be there in the text, which I shall read. And I shall probably display the text in a video before I then go on to read the text, or maybe I'll do them both together on the screen. I don't know, I haven't decided yet, but it's coming, it's on its way, it shall manifest. I've noticed that people like self-help style videos in the spiritual community. It's kind of why a lot of people are there, isn't it? You know, it's like, I feel this calling, this urge, life's busy, life's boring, life is difficult, and I want to get a handle on things. And I want a new way of thinking today. I want to kind of hit on the internet, you know, a short, sharp burst of wisdom on video. Oh, I suddenly realized I hadn't quite seen it that way before. Now, I've got to be honest, I'm not so much interested in that kind of thing. I'm not so much interested in the self-help, let's all be wonderful, perfectly spiritual people type thing. Now, you might think, well, doesn't that contradict the fact that you are doing what you do? Yes and no. I can't help but be a rebel. I was born a rebel. And rebellion comes with its own magic, if you like. Now, you can be a rebel with a good heart. And this would kind of relate to soul mirror work, where one is constantly refining oneself, a bit like the idea of the stone that one is chipping away at to refine and balance the character, one's essence, and this aids in the magical development. Now, whether you're a good person or not, this is partly objective, but it's also extremely subjective. And let's face it, we do not exist in a perfect world. So I've noticed this great kind of very Christianized sense of inner confusion, struggle, contradiction going on with this part of the practice. And we all love to beat ourselves and feel bad about the kind of people that we are. And I mean, should I feel bad about that night of passion that I had the other night in the van? Do I? Fuck. The answer, well, maybe the answer to that is yes, but I don't feel bad. Do I feel bad about that? I'll give you an example of one thing, right? People say that when you take ayahuasca, that you should abstain from sex and overindulgence, and you should spend a few days purifying yourself, eating antioxidant style foods and beverages. The night before I did ayahuasca, I had like a 3-hour sex session. Woke up the next morning and had a fry up, and I'm sure the night before that I was drunk. It didn't make any difference to how extremely potent and powerful that experience was. Now, I do understand that if you were going to perform a magical operation, that you might want to abstain, and fasting is an immediate way of gaining extra mental acuity, vision and power. It's extraordinary. I fasted for about 12 days, just one meal a day, going back about a year ago now. And the visions that I was having on the edge of sleep were extraordinary. So for me, that kind of takes care of things. People like to punish the way that they speak as well. It's like feeling bad about where you come from, which social strata you were brought up in. As long as you can adjust, as long as you're not vile, as long as I don't see the harm in in being who you are in a way that isn't too disharmonious, that isn't too obtuse. There's a lot of self-punishment that goes on, a lot of soul-searching, a lot of internal whinging and whining. This, in a way, is a kind of distraction from the actual practice. Because what I've learned is that if you simply keep up your meditation day in, day out, in the particular way laid out by Franz Bardon, and from the particular angle that I describe in the text, which I shall read, just remind again for anyone who's not familiar, it will be chapter 1 of my own writing to a larger work, and I'm not sure if I'm going to say the title yet or not. I mean, I'll decide that later. But I do have a title, and I can't make any plans at the moment in terms of how large this work will be. And I've got an interesting way of tackling this project, which is in bite-sized chunks, essays basically. Now, I know from being quite a serious musician in the past, very dedicated, very hardworking, that writing a full album on your own, I mean, we're talking like doing this pretty much almost entirely on my own, was too much, really. I got so far, but I usually ended up recording at the most about 3 songs in one go. Any more than that was, it felt like you were never going to get there, you know. And most of the time what I found was I just like to fire up Pro Tools. I had a few ideas on guitar, had some vocal ideas, and I would just start laying down pieces of guitar riffs, programming drums, coming up with vocals as I went, raiding my riffs bank, which was mostly in my head but some of it on tape, dictaphone at the time, and stuff like that. Just trying out different bridges and stuff, and you get really involved in this one song. And once you've finished, the writing and recording process, which kind of all happened together at the same time, at least in the later songs, you would mix, master, come up with a little bit of artwork, which I must admit at the time I was capable of much better artwork than most of the images that I overlaid over my music on YouTube videos, because I was spending all my time on the music, and so later on, after the music was pretty much done, then I would concentrate on my art, but that's another story. So basically, just these small islands, these ideas of a single song, finishing that completely without worrying about without worrying about the entire picture, the big picture. That's not strictly true, because a theme will run. You will jump from one place to another. You may repeat yourself. You may end up repeating yourself, not directly, but you're going to have a style, right? So things are going to, things are going to resonate from song to song. A particular type of bridge or vocal melody may be similar a couple of songs down the line, but different enough. Each song was its own original thing. And once they were all finished, I could quite happily, to be honest, chuck these all together on one CD and be very happy with the result. And you know what, I might end up just putting them all together one day. I do plan to go back to my music channel and formally cap that off in some ritual fashion. That's something that will need to be done. But anyway, I digress as usual. So where were we? Self-help, soul mirrors, meditation. I don't want to spoil the writing, but what I'm getting at is, if you just engage in the practice, the big picture tends to kind of take care of itself. Enough, in my experience. And it's very important that I don't talk about exactly where I'm at or what I'm capable of what I've experienced. Some of this I've laid down, but I've purposefully steered clear of giving too clear an idea, and this is because of the rules, you know, to know, to dare, to will, to keep silence. Now, I have discussed this with my teacher, and there is a certain amount of silence that needs to be sacrificed, and a price be paid for that in order to become a communicator, a kind of prophet, if you like. But this again comes with its own rewards. Other people's belief in you. And when it comes to doubts, well, as long as you keep any particular personal operations secret until they have finalized, and you're pretty much okay. But I don't know, there's something about doubts that can fuel as well as get in the way, if you know what I mean. I mean, I don't tend to worry about that kind of thing. I feel okay, but I wouldn't fuck with it. You know, I wouldn't purposefully try to give an exact indication of my status. Now, I have said recently to other people that you should always be very, very wary of judging someone else in these regards, because even if you are predominantly residing in one particular level or grade, you might say, people have peculiar abilities and skills that may elevate them in certain niche areas to extreme levels, unguessed by those around them. And by the same token, there may be extreme failings which kind of demote people down to levels lower than their current working situation. The idea is to keep working to bring things into balance. I mean, this is more about dragging what's hanging below up to where you are, but if you have certain aspects of your capability which are above and beyond, then it's not something to worry about or complain about exactly, is it? You'll, at some point in the future, you'll catch up. The rest of you will catch up with that point, and by that time, I mean, well, I suppose a fair amount of opinion does come into this. This constant self-punishment. Is this necessary? Yes and no. I think it's important to be aware of it, but not to let it dominate your every waking moment. This feeling that you're never ready, that you're never quite there. Now, confidence without arrogance comes with its own rewards. If you believe that you're able to do things, and you do these things with absolute one-pointed conviction, then you can achieve extraordinary things. Now, something that may be leveled at people who are interested in these subjects is, well, why are you not completely sorted? You know, why are you not the most successful person that you can imagine? I've got an answer for this, and that is, you can't really fake anything, and you have to be in a particular mood. You have to have a particular resonance, and there is, say for instance in my case, there is a certain kind of stoic penance taking place. There is some animals crying out in the night. Good Lord. there is a certain amount of self-sacrifice and acceptance that needs to take place. And I must admit, I never really sit around dreaming about being super rich, or I do kind of enjoy this challenge, this particular niche that I'm riding, and it should come as no surprise that I am engaged upon a path that may be likened to the path of Odin, the sacrifice of oneself to oneself. And I do not want to interrupt this process with a kind of blazing, sunny optimism and kind of almost sickening piety and big smiley faces, because this would be fake. This is not my personality. This is not me. I can have my moments, but they're more mercurial than happy clappy. Everyone has a particular resonance of frequency. Yes, one needs to balance things and try new things and try and, you know, bring up those areas that one is not usually familiar with. This is all part of the process, but that will happen anyway. That will happen through the process of meditation. You see, people often debate and wonder about alchemy. You know, what is alchemy? Is this a real art form where you transmute lead into gold? Well, I couldn't answer that. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's just too mind-bogglingly complicated and odd to get your head round that way of looking at things. People have written long books, and if anyone's really doing that, then chances are they're gonna have a certain degree of success. They'll probably decide to keep it highly secretive, and I suspect that no one is, to be honest, in that literal sense. Well, anyway, you know, scrap what I don't see any reason to take that too seriously. It seems to be a kind of code language. I'll keep that one on the shelf, like, you know, who knows, maybe one day I'll gain an extra insight into that. But I can't imagine anyone sharing that, because there seems to be this peculiar rule of sharing something that is working, a gift, an ability, you know, one's personal miracle, in the midst of its fruition, seems to dampen the effect, and sometimes these abilities can leave one for a while. It's almost as if like the universe is saying, you got a little bit cocky about that, didn't you? We'll take that away for a while. There's definitely something to this silence thing, something not just poetic, but not just a poetic way of communicating a truth which is more prosaic than how one might imagine, but it seems to be a reality that one can foster supernatural gifts that must be kept silent, at least in the moment of their application, and perhaps hinted at going forth. But this is tricky. This is this is a tricky thing. Now, I wouldn't be saying all this if I didn't have direct experience. Now, I know that there's certain people that could listen to this that would think, man, you really are going off the deep end. Like, who do you think you are? I mean, who do you think you are to talk like this? But what you're supposed to do, wait until you are literally like Gandalf, before you dare to communicate anything. Why not? I'll let the mystery hang in the air, in terms of my inner sanctum, if you like, but I will communicate certain of the rules and experiences and properties of the journey, because you're not really going to understand this unless you're doing it anyway, and then there will be a certain resonance, there will be a certain respect there. So yes, all these things important from a certain angle. They are adjusted to a certain degree by one's perspective. The what's the right word? The relativity of the situation. One's particular vibration and resonance, and one's truth in terms of following the particular path that one is in resonance with. So I was getting somewhere about meditation and alchemy. You see, when you engage in a particular posture with these breath techniques, when you're really warm, when you're like halfway in, when you've hit the point where it's really happening, sometimes you just stop breathing for a surprising amount of time, actually, and then all of a sudden you'll feel the need to breathe again. And this may be intermittent. There'll be a process of adjustment and balancing, which can be likened to bellows, and something way more complicated than simple breathing and relaxation is taking place within the psyche, within the body indeed, within the astral soul, and by extension the spirit. Things are really changing. Now, I think you have to hold back from expecting to become, like some deity overnight. This is quite some process. It takes time. And it doesn't matter how far you go. It's like you cannot erase the original seed of your insanity. The original blueprint of your character will always be there. So if you are caught up in this kind of self-loathing and this whole self-help, I need to be a completely different person, like completely, and I need to escape myself, and I need to recreate a different personality. I'm not happy with my roots, my social class, my status, those mistakes that I keep making, those patterns that I keep falling into. I do honestly feel that no matter how hard you work, you cannot completely erase these patterns. You may be able to enhance them and improve them and perhaps lift them up, but they're still going to be there. This is what I believe. I know all kinds of things are possible on this earth with serious dedication, but when you think about all of the amazing spiritual gurus and masters, they were all cheeky bastards in one way or another, most of them, you know. And is that really so wrong? Why would we expect them to be like angels? I mean, they inhabit a body stamped with a particular pattern upon their birth, you know, written in the stars. To achieve extraordinary things is commendable, but some leeway should be given, some understanding. And if you genuinely don't like yourself, I think going headlong into this whole self-help kind of obsessive need for change is going to be ultimately disappointing. I think it would be better to start with, as long as you're not doing anything too awful, just giving yourself a break, saying, the way that I speak's okay. The place that I come from just is. My past. Now this is something. This is a quite a cool idea, actually. You might think that I was about to say that I cannot change the past. I cannot change my past, but this is not strictly true. And I'm not going to get into the deep esoteric, you know, through the mental plane we can affect the past. That's a thing. That's a thing that is likely somewhat true. But when you think that the past, I'm not talking about some kind of akashic record, you know, it's always there, because, you know, I do believe that everything that's ever happened is held in the mind of God, if you like. It's always going to be there. Ultimately, there is no time. You know, time is a kind of construct that we exist within, almost like fish swimming through water. Time is one of the parameters of our environment as embodied beings. So without, you know, not the higher stuff, but I'm talking just really here on a practical level. Now, this ties into karma as well. Now, I'm satisfied that I've paid for everything that I've ever done. Anything awful I've ever done, I'm satisfied that I've paid for that, and I invited that as well through this practice. Now, has that changed the past? Well, in a way, yes. It's changed the way I perceive the past. It's okay to live with those things now, those aspects of the past and the personality, the things that in a way cannot be changed, and yet they are changed by the present moment, one's attitude towards them. So, for instance, if you struggled really, really hard to achieve something in your life, or even to achieve a certain state of mind, if you didn't quite get there, then all of those mistakes and all of that confusion, it would stand as it is, as a waste of time and, you know, sin and error and all this kind of thing. But if you were able to get to a point where you feel that you karmically paid for that, or even from a different perspective, you'd actually achieved things that you set out to achieve, a state of mind, or even if you liken this to an ambition or starting a business or something like this, it would change the past. It would change the way you see the past, which is good enough from your perspective. You really can change the past from your point of view. And that's the most important point of view, really. But I think there's a lot of self-loathing and a lot of self-loathing going on, and a need to accept one's faults, accept one's physical incarnation, accept one's past, one's proclivities, whilst at the same time moving forward. Instead of getting caught up in watching a million bloody YouTube videos on, just trying to change your perspective from day to day and have this new buzzword and this new kind of little magical technique in your mind that you're probably not going to keep up. Now, what can you keep up if you're engaged in this practice? Then meditation is the thing that you should be able to keep up. And if you keep that up, then you are keeping up actual alchemy. And through this process of alchemy, karmically, things will straighten out. And through the bellows breath, through the... no, actually, I'm going to save that till later. But through this internal alchemy and this breathing and this strange... I'm struggling with the words right now. But there is a beauty and a majesty and a divine spark within the breath that can be felt when one keeps this up for long enough. An energy, a vital power. This transforms the present moment. It transforms the future. It transforms the past. The original seed will always be there. So, a little bit of self-acceptance, and instead of constantly trying to be someone else, just be yourself in practice, day after day. And if you fuck up, just pick yourself up again. And maybe you're being too hard on yourself. Maybe it was understandable. Maybe you were someone else's karma. They needed to hear that. Or maybe you chose to make a shamanic gesture in terms of unleashing your righteous fury in that moment. And you shouldn't feel too bad about that, because it was necessary in order to engender your own peace of mind. Does that make sense? Okay. Like I said, I shall. I did say in the last video that it would be the next video, but things change in this channel. So it will be the next video. What is that? Oh, it's the light reflecting from my ring. I did say, yeah, where am I? Yeah. In the next video or series of videos, however long it takes, however I decide to do it, I shall reveal occult secrets hidden in plain sight with my original seed of insanity at the heart. Take care.